three amazing people in this space. We have Cecilia, Christina, and Chewy, and they're going to be talking about how Unicef Innovate has been able to sort of manage and help increase the impact of the Ethereum ecosystem throughout their efforts, and kind of how they've seen Ethereum being used by startups all around the world. So we have the team here on the call, and I'd like to welcome all of them here and kick us off with their chat. So please welcome Christina and team.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having us today. I'm just going to start sharing my screen. And can someone confirm they can see it?
We can see it.
Perfect. Over to you, Cece.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Cecilia, and together with Christina and Chuy, we will today talk about systems that have been reimagined with blockchain, or more specifically about how can blockchain help us reimagine systems for the future we want to live in. And I think it's just a good timing to have these discussions in the context of the many big challenges that we're facing today, starting with displacement. So just for you to know, there are today 80 million people around the world that have been forced out of their homes. This is people that may not be able to go to school, may not be able to see or be with their extended families or even their immediate families, and may not even have, of course, food as a given. 40% of these people are children, and questions that we have are, how do we secure a safe and healthy environment for the displaced children, and how can we enable medical records for them to be transferable across borders, or what kind of education credentials can be universally accepted. Another challenge is about the training for tomorrow. So did you know that actually 65% of the children entering primary schools today will ultimately work in new job types and functions that today do not exist? This is just crazy in terms of how slowly is the education system picking up on many of the leads of what's the future of education. So how can we do this? How can we design appropriate curriculums to give children a chance to have opportunities in the future? And of course, emergencies. We are today living in an unreal situation. COVID-19 happened, and it was a catastrophe globally in different industries like healthcare, for education, for the delivery of food. So amongst many sectors, and put the world in some sort of test. So not only we need the processes and mechanisms to now react into what is left out of COVID, but also how can we respond to these emergencies that will keep coming to the world. So UNICEF, but Unicef Innovation, a lot of you here probably know what we do at UNICEF, and you know that we are an agency within the United Nations that works towards the care and the development of the children in the places with the highest needs. Probably not a lot of you know that there's a team within UNICEF called Unicef Innovation that works on doing things new and differently to add value towards our mission. So what do we do specifically? So number one, we identify emerging frontier technologies, and we try to collaborate with private sector tools to find shared value towards our mission. We also invest in early stage startups to learn with them and work together to explore how can we provide more impact towards the growth of children. And third, we internally work on prototypes using these emerging technologies to see how can we further our objectives in UNICEF. So I'll start by talking about the first part of the investment component, and Christina later will talk more about how and what kind of prototypes we're working on internally. And last today, Chuy will speak about one of the use cases of the work that we've been doing together with his startup. Starting with the frontier tech areas. So we're going to talk a lot about this over the discussion today, but just for you to know, so Unicef Innovation, we work with emerging technologies. So what we define as technologies that lie in $100 billion markets and also support more than 1 billion people's needs. So basically, we work in the technologies that intersect these two worlds, but basically what that means is technologies that lie in financially sustainable markets and have the potential to influence and positively impact a lot of people. And we invest and work with many of the technologies that you see there on the screen, like machine learning, data science, virtual and augmented reality. But surely today we're also going to talk and dig in more a little bit about what we do around blockchain, which is one of the key technologies we focus on. So the UNICEF Innovation Fund, or the UNICEF Venture Fund, we call it both ways, but the Venture Fund is basically a 30 million pooled funding vehicle that we use within the UN to invest in early stage open source technologies that have the potential to positively impact the lives of children. This was the first venture capital vehicle within the United Nations that was funded 4 years ago, and since then a lot has happened. So the purpose of what we do within the fund is try to engage and collaborate with early stage startups. So the kinds of startups that have a prototype of technology that they have a vision that they can use to positively impact the world. And what we do is we provide little sums of money that go up to $100,000 to these startups in developing and emerging countries, so that they can further test, iterate their products, and eventually scale as digital public goods. What kind of projects are part of our portfolio? So the kinds of projects that are registered as private companies, and this is purely because we want to support private sector entities, so the kinds of entities that will build a financially sustainable business model and eventually can stand up without the kind of support that comes from the UN. We only purely invest in open source technology solutions that have an existing prototype, and there's a link for which they can make an argument that their solution that they're building is making a positive impact globally. So the kinds of solutions we invest in and how do we assess them really is we really look for solutions that have identified a very, very strong problem and have developed a solution towards it. I think what we see a lot in the hundreds and now actually thousands of applications around blockchain is that we see that many times we get applications that say they want to use blockchain for something that is not particularly needed. So this is one thing that we address. Can blockchain, in fact, be used for that specific problem? Is that the best technology that they can use? And does it go accordingly to what they want to address? We very much explore the team. We invest in local teams building local solutions for local problems that have a global impact. So building a company is more beyond is more than the idea. A lot goes into the execution of that idea, and having the context, knowledge, understanding what are the players that are part of that ecosystem is a key component for succeeding in that solution. So if you're interested in this kind of like engagement with us, just be sure that you have all these components in place together with the technical viability and the business model that you envision will help get your solution as a financially sustainable company. A little bit about the portfolio experience. So after we decide to invest in the companies go into our what we call the portfolio of the UNICEF Venture Fund. And this portfolio is particularly active in the first year of the investment. In this first year of the investment is that we work a lot on advising on how to strengthen the product development, on what kind of strategic support do the companies need to strengthen their business model. So many times what we see is that they need to strengthen their, for example, their user experience. How can basically a user go into the platform but also return, which is a problem with many startup funders. And also, what are the programmatic expertise that we can support from UNICEF, like WASH, health, disabilities, or education, to help these solutions grow and the minimum viable product to be solidified for further funding. One key thing to mention is that the investments after the year of the investment period don't just leave or stop engaging with us. We continue our support even further. And we, especially after the year of the investment period, when we see that the products have been solidified, we work a lot with external partners and our positioning within the United Nations to foster these collaborations and facilitate the kind of engagements that will help the companies grow even further. All of this to say that today we have made more than 100 investments in more than 50 countries. And just to give you a sense of one of the blockchain solutions that we've invested in, so their name is Statwig. They're based in India, and they use a platform that is enabled through blockchain and IoT to track the delivery of food and vaccines to the people that need it. And what's key about this solution is, especially today in terms of COVID, they are now working with the government of India on a prototype to track the delivery of food to low-income areas where the supply chain is compromised, and understanding if the food is in fact delivered and is delivered in good shape is key. I'm going to stop on the examples right here just because so later, after Christina also gives a little bit more about the context and the kind of internal prototypes we do around blockchain inside UNICEF, we'll have Chewy, who is one of our portfolio companies, talk a little bit more about the kind of engagement that we've had together and the kind of solution he's been working on and the kind of support we've been giving him. But before I finish, I wanted to also talk about this other part. So after the 1 year of the investment period, so after that 1 year portfolio experience that the companies have with us, we work on scaling these digital public goods. And what that means in particular is, so after the companies have been, solidifying their product on their own, how can we facilitate and foster engagements between the solutions, between the startups and their countries through our UNICEF country offices? So we have a presence with UNICEF field offices in more than 150 countries, and that's a very, very vast geographic expansion to not only help them work, especially with public sector organizations, but also for them to expand into new countries. So 25% of our portfolio has been engaging with this network of global offices that allows this solidifying their presence in the market. Follow-on funding, as I said before, this is something we put a lot of emphasis in. So after our engagement period, after the work we do together with the startups, how do we foster new relationships with funders from other venture funds or other similar funding vehicles that would be interested in the solutions that lie within our portfolio, that are vetted and are doing amazing humanitarian work. And one last thing I wanted to very much highlight is the building up of two financial vehicles that have been the recent ones within the UN system and within UNICEF. So one is the Growth Fund. So the Growth Fund has been is basically the pooled funding vehicle also that we have set up to provide larger funding size amounts to the startups that graduate from our portfolio, but also startups that are working in the market and are also ready for the kind of scale up funding opportunities. So these funding possibilities go from $200,000 to $400,000. And then we have the Crypto Fund. So the Crypto Fund has been the latest innovation that we've done inside of the UN regarding the funding possibilities for startups. And we set it up a year ago in 2019, October 2019. And it basically follows the same rules as I was telling you about the venture fund, except that it provides investment in crypto denominated assets. So far we've done 12 investments. Jesus also at the end will also talk a little bit about this, as he has also received investment from the crypto fund. But there are 8 other countries that are also involved and have recipients of this kind of funding. And it's been a remarkable experience for us in terms of tracking the kind of investment that we provided to the startups, tracking the kind of investments that the startups are doing internally to deploy this funding and make a better use of it, and the kind of efficiencies that we've done internally in the investment process to secure faster and more efficient funding to the beneficiaries that we want to serve. With that and that snapshot of what we do, Christina, the floor is all yours to talk about the internal prototypes that we do with blockchain and crypto.
Awesome, and thanks so much. I think that one of the important things that you mentioned was the crypto fund, particularly at the end, and that's really Unicef redesigning our own systems to essentially adapt to this new world. So I'm going to build a little bit on the crypto fund and then talk about particularly Ethereum prototypes that we have been building over the last couple of years within our team. But people are always curious about where does blockchain and crypto play a role as it pertains to Unicef. And Cecilia, you give great examples about, early stage investments that we're making, but why are we making these investments and what are we looking for as we do this? So from a Unicef perspective, there's really 3 big buckets that I don't think these come as a surprise to anyone in the blockchain space, but we're looking to leverage new innovative financing models. So this is things like the crypto fund, and looking to increase efficiency and transparency in internal processes. So really challenging ourselves to reimagine internal processes as well and see if we can leverage blockchain in that case. And then how do we incentivize the creation of open source digital public goods? And we've done a few pilots on that. Our work, particularly within our blockchain team, focuses around 3 buckets. The first you've already heard about is the innovation fund and the crypto fund. The second is really around internal prototypes, and UNICEF works in over 190 different countries. And so there's countries who are interested in using blockchain, and our team would support those countries in those explorations. And I'm going to give you some examples. And lastly, learning. I've heard the talk just before us about how to get started in the space. I think that's still a big challenge for a lot of the folks that we interact with too, of how do we reduce the barrier to access to not just crypto, but also more generally blockchain applications that can be beneficial. So we do a lot on that side, getting UN folks together and doing prototypes together or learning sessions together as well. We have been looking at blockchain since actually 2015, since 2015, 5 years at least now. Cecilia mentioned that the crypto fund was launched last year. For those of you that would have been at DevCon, that's where we made the announcement, and we're super happy to be with the Ethereum community there and launch that with the Ethereum Foundation. But I have to mention all of the milestones that actually went into actually launching the crypto fund. And it was a long journey of 2 years to get to the point where UNICEF could reimagine how it worked with digital assets and actually be able to accept crypto. And so some of the highlights would be, for example, UNICEF France in early 2018 actually allowed mining using your gaming console, and anything that was mined went towards UNICEF, and that supported the Syrian refugee crisis at that point. Now funds that are committed to the crypto fund go to supporting early stage startups that are working on these variety of solutions. Particularly related to the crypto fund, I thought it would be interesting to highlight 2 internal products that we've been building. So being the first UN entity to use crypto as crypto, there was a gap for us, particularly for public sector tools specifically to help us in how we tell our story and how we're using blockchain and crypto and how we internally support our processes. So our team has been working on Juniper, which is a tool set to really enable public sector organizations. The first is a visualization tool, which is kind of like a simplified block explorer, is probably the best way to put it, and you're more than welcome to go check it out. But the whole idea is for us to be as transparent as possible in terms of how many funds we have, how much funds we've dispersed, who's received those disbursements. And the next version of the visualization tool will even go a level deeper and will show you, for example, Chewy, who's going to talk, has received some crypto. What did he decide to spend it on? So he'll label it as he spent it on salaries, or he spent it on bounties, or whatever he decided to do with that crypto. And so we're making the process all the way from donation through to use of the crypto by the investment companies as transparent as possible. And secondly, a portfolio tool. This is like a really customized block explorer with also a valuation tool. And I'll give you a sense of what that looks like. So the crypto fund website itself, 3 categories. You have how are the funds coming in, what are the investments that we're making, and then if you really want to dive into the actual block confirmations or transaction confirmations, you can actually click on the track section and you can see all of that fun stuff going on. Particularly in the investment section, though, if you want to learn about projects that we've supported, and Cecilia pointed to a few of those, you can go into the invest section and you'll see we've tried to use some plain language as much as possible, describe what the project's doing, give you a quick snapshot, and then you can click on it, and that's where you'll actually see the verification of those transfers that have taken place. Our transfers to date have been in the amount of either our very first was in 10 Ether, so wanted to just make sure that the piping was working. And then our most recent transfers were in the amount of 125 ETH. So slowly but surely building up our own muscle memory in terms of how we deal with digital assets. And then the portfolio tool that I mentioned, and essentially being a customized block explorer. This is for us to be able to keep track of how much transaction fees have we paid for overall disbursement. So in the last year, those 12 investments that Cecilia mentioned were about $500,000 worth. So less than 2% in transaction fees that we've paid, even though it's been a crazy year for transaction fees. It's still for us been fairly manageable. And then the valuation part, which I don't have a screenshot of right now, but we have an algorithm essentially that we use across multiple exchanges to take an average, and we're able to track that all within this portal to make it really easy for our accounting team and the rest of our colleagues at UNICEF. So that's one of the internal projects that we've been working on. But the second one that I wanted to highlight to you, I think is particularly relevant in the context of COVID. And this is a project that we were working on even before COVID hit. And this is around bringing universal connectivities to schools and school communities. Having access to information, to the internet gives us access to information. It provides us additional opportunities. So we have access to micro work, or we have access to online learning, access to health information. And if you don't have access to the internet, then you're blocked from all of these opportunities. And so we have been working on a variety of solutions to help bring universal connectivities to school and school communities. But particularly, we've been looking at how blockchain can play a role in that. So there is a product called Project Connect that our team has been working on for several years that actually helps map the schools in each country. And in this case, you can see Colombia here and the internet connectivity speed of every single school. The reason that it's important and helpful for us to know the internet connectivity speed is we can then look at this map and see, how do we teach in certain regions? Can we provide online education or not? Or if it has good connectivity speed, we know that those communities might have the most recent information about COVID, for example, and maybe other communities that aren't as connected, we need to focus on getting information out in a variety of different ways in those communities. So that was step one, no blockchain in that piece at all. But what we have been working on now is getting real-time connectivity information and writing that on chain. So the old way that each of these schools would report their connectivity speed is that a principal every month would fill out a form and they would mail that into us. There's obviously a couple inefficiencies in that process. And we also want to make sure we're getting the most accurate information and that the information actually matches what the schools are paying for, particularly. And then starting to look at, okay, so if we know the rules of engagement with an internet service provider, can we actually use smart contracts to manage some of that relationship rather than having a lot of hands-on and manual intervention? So the first step of this process was really understanding where the schools are. Like I mentioned, no blockchain part in that element right away, though we are looking now at using bounties to essentially help people crowdsource locations of schools. So that would be one element. But what we have done is we're using various methods to collect real-time internet speed. So for example, either through a probe in the school or through Chrome extensions. There's a variety of different methods we're using in different countries to get this real-time connectivity speed and to have a marker that we're able to say that this information hasn't been tampered with by any party. And so to have that on chain, to be able to have that. Once we've done that, then we're starting to think through what the smart contract structure would look like. We have even had early conversations in terms of if we look at a school as an economic hub, for example, how could we leverage different DeFi protocols to actually enable that community in a variety of different ways. Those are still pretty early ideas, but just to point out that those are conversations that our team are having to see how we can best leverage blockchain and specifically Ethereum in this case for these school communities. So with the whole intention of going from a map that's mostly red to going to a map that's mostly green, so that then we have a community of people who have access to the internet, but not just the internet, but to be able to join, for example, the Ethereum community and have access to micro work or be able to join various projects. That's incredibly powerful. So the Giga project in and of itself has 4 different pillars. And to date, I've mentioned some of these prototypes that we've done, but we have 4 or 5 various prototypes that we have done that we're now looking to consolidate into one essentially, larger platform, the Project Connect platform. So mapping the data and getting that in real time, using smart contracts to essentially monitor whether the internet speed is essentially in the band of what's supposed to be delivered. We're looking at various ways that we can capture internet service providers bidding on connectivity in countries and how we can do that in a fair and transparent way online. And then a whole variety of things around empowering the community once they have connectivity. So we've done things like once you have connectivity, looking at certificates on chain, which is I think a super easy example of helping someone build a digital CV. But also micro work and bounties and things like that. I think that's been a big part of our work as well. So with that, I'm going to leave you just with some links to our website in case you're interested. So unicefinnovationfund.org or cryptofund.unicef.io. But we thought it would be particularly interesting for you to hear from one of the companies who's actually received funding from us and is working in these countries that we've been talking about. So Chewy, thank you for joining us on a Friday evening, and over to you for the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Ceci. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to be here. So I'm going to share my screen. So just let me know. I guess you can see my presentation there, right? So does it say CryptoKitties? Is this the right one? No? It's government as a platform. This session is called Reimagining Systems. And perhaps this is where we found our best alignment with Unicef Innovation, with Ceci and Christina, because we were trying to reimagine the public sector. And as it says, it's in an approach shifting towards efficiency and trust. Christina was referring about how important is being efficient, being trustworthy, being transparent. And this is something that governments lack. And I want to start this presentation with just this food for thought. Do you trust in your government? Can you think about that question a little bit? When was the last time that you interacted with your government? How much money did they ask you to pay in taxes? What services that you're receiving from them? What else can you ask them to give or to do for you? How can we tap on that? Do you actually trust them? Well, don't feel bad. Either if you trust or not, there is a 50% population that trusts or distrusts the government. But what is worst is that this is growing because 9 out of every 10 public servants, they say that they just don't have the tools to cope with the size of the cities, with the amount of problems that are emerging. They don't know how to do. They don't have the technologies. They don't have the tools. They don't have the procedures. They are operating almost like 200 years ago. And this creates a bigger problem. According to McKinsey, an average of 20% of annual budget of every government in the world goes missing. This sums up to 5 trillion. In the state where I live, in Nuevo León, Mexico, this is $1 billion every single year. What can you do with $1 billion? What can you do with this money to improve your government, or to build this trust that we are thinking, or to reimagine the system? So this is a lot of money that goes missing, a lot of distrust, a lot of inefficiency, and a lot of people saying that they don't have the tools to do anything about it. So we thought we need to reimagine that. And as Ceci was showing, UNICEF taught us how to jump in the middle of those technologies, top technologies, and most pressing problems. And this is a company that I've co-founded. OSCT jumped into the middle of these pressing problems and is helping governments to create solutions using technologies such as blockchain. And we're doing it together with UNICEF or the Ethereum Foundation, among other partners that you can see there, to bridge a gap. And I myself, I have a background as a mechatronics engineer. So what am I doing working in government? I did a PhD in artificial intelligence. Why am I working with the public sector? Well, because I believe that I know this secret sauce that we technologists know as the Moore's law. In technology, if you see the right of this slide, we assume that every year things cost less and do more. But when I saw what government is doing and how they operate, they assume that every year things will cost more and do less. So how can we overlap those worlds in this industry known as GovTech and pour these technologies and leverage this financial support either in regular finance or in crypto from UNICEF to build a better world, to reimagine governments? Because, and this is from the Infinite Machine book, every government goes inefficient once they cross a certain size threshold, and every city is growing. So we need to know how can we provide these technologies to create an opportunity for governments to grow their services, to grow their opportunity to serve, to grow their capacity to deliver solutions as their cities is growing, as the citizen or the population is growing. And the best that we can think about this is to build government as platforms. Think about Ethereum. Think about this phrase from our quote from Tim O'Reilly. He said to Jeff Bezos once that a platform beats an application every single time. And this is what we're trying to build: an ecosystem or of solutions that bets into less duplicated efforts, rapid adoptions, and better services. Imagine governments as platforms tapping into two essential principles: trust and efficiency. I'm going to tap into efficiency very fast because we see efficiency as artificial intelligence, and this time we need to focus on blockchain. But I want to talk about this because actually we're using blockchain, cryptocurrency from the crypto fund that the UNICEF gave us, as not only as a financial support, but also as a badge of trust for the government of the city of Buenos Aires to believe in us and to collaborate with another startup to mine all those public reviews on Google Places and social media about the public spaces in Buenos Aires and grab the sentiment and grab the best or most relevant tags for the government to understand how the citizens are reacting to their public policies and the public spaces. We're doing this with the city right now, and we're tapping into image recognition for faster actioning, potholes, damaged parks, public lighting, and also situations. This is in Spanish, but you can see there that the best guess is the street light turned off. We can detect situations now with these algorithms, sponsored by UNICEF, with the Crypto Fund, and by the Ethereum Foundation. We want to do with the artificial intelligence and with the efficient approach of platforms, actions faster. And that's it that I'm going to talk about artificial intelligence. I want to focus on trust because here is where blockchain came in. And also, I need to step back a couple of years ago, 2018, when UNICEF first trusted in us with the Innovation Fund. We were part of the first blockchain cohort to build a platform to deliver digital certificates. We wanted to make everyone, blockchain savvy or not, to be able to tap into the foundational attributes of blockchain: immutability, transparency, decentralization, to leverage the power of the blockchain, even if you don't even understand what blockchain means. We wanted that. We wanted a simple WordPress plugin where anyone can issue a certificate. And we created that with the first innovation fund. And now with the crypto fund, we created self-sovereign identity. And we are combining those worlds, as you can see in this video. We created a very simple self-sovereign identity with a blockchain ID using MetaMask, where you can sign in your credentials. You demonstrate that you own a wallet, an Ethereum wallet, and we use this wallet as your document holder. And then you fill in any form. Imagine you are asking for a construction permit, and you click there, send, and then an administrator, this is an administrator logging in, it comes in, regular day working at the government, it sees recent requests for construction permits, it sees my data there, already paid the permit, all certified on, or to certify on the blockchain, and then I click, okay, everything is well here. And then I issue the certificate. Public servant, they don't have an idea of what happened in the backend, but they created a QR, they create a license that is looks like this, and then it's openly verifiable by anyone. Tampering, expiration, revocation, and authenticity. Construction permit, COVID passes, reopening tourism responsibly, you name it. It's a blockchain asset linked to a wallet that is seen as a document holder or a self-sovereign identity for governments to serve everything. If we look at the image on the top left, we're thinking about birth certificates, handicap certificates, construction permits, commercial permits, your university diplomas, everything on your document holder, on your Ethereum wallet. And once you want to, for example, take a look at the right image, if you want to ask for a construction permit to build an extra room in your house, you click on the permit and it says, hey, your government wants to access your birth blockchain certificate and your home ownership certificate. And you click accept, they got the information, you make the payment, or if it requires a payment, and they send you back another blockchain digital asset with your construction permit, with all the foundational attributes of the blockchain. Who knows about blockchain? The citizen, the public servant? We know about blockchain, and we know that this brings back trust, and we're building this with the Ethereum 2.3.1 library in Python, writing everything openly verifiable with the block source open standard for anyone to be able to verify, so that decentralization is happening at its best, and with MetaMask, so that anyone with any browser can access or can sign this information. These kind of certificates, we have done it in very different flavors. This is one example. We are tracing subsidies delivery, certificates of money given to artists in the municipality of Bahia Blanca. We are putting it on blockchain. Transparency on energy pricings in the national government of Chile. We are doing that. Tamper-proof records on energy pricings. University diplomas. This is on the federal Argentinian blockchain, which is also based on Ethereum. Deposited in the same wallet that you use to interact with your presidency or with your local government. Skills at different schools on the blockchain. Origin of wine derivatives and artisans products, for example, also honey products from very vulnerable communities in the north of Argentina and the south of Mexico. Commitments to sustainability or sustainable actions with the Sustainability Development Center in Spain. Commercial licenses in Costa Rica, in the municipality of Quepos and Grecia, all as a digital asset linked to a self-sovereign identity of a person. Winners of public lotteries, we're creating a model around blockchain on how an intelligent public lottery should look like, with tamper-proof records and assuring that there is no corruption of manipulation of information and the winners there. Liquor licenses, inspector licenses. This has been very, very interesting for us because maybe it doesn't happen around the world, but in Latin America, there is a lot of distrust in police officers. So imagine there is a police officer approaching you, and you can take out your phone and scan a QR and see its blockchain certificate and confirm that there's a police officer, that it's supposed to be there, that the time is correct, that the region is correct. So to do this brings back control to the government authorities and to the citizen again. It decentralizes this sense of trust. This is an example of construction permits being built in the city of San Nicolas. And I can keep on talking about this. I love these tweets from Aja and Chris Fabian, where last July, we closed a moment saying, like, we have issued tens of thousands of these different flavors of blockchain digital assets, impacting over 500 million citizens in Argentina, Chile, Costa Rica, Mexico, and more countries in the region. All this world about trust is about documents and trustworthy. But what if we couple both worlds, the crypto fund for AI, the crypto fund for blockchain, and everything that we're building as a platform? Think about governments. They work, as we can see on the left here, they couple pieces, non-interoperable silos of data. And on the right, Lego pieces. As a platform, we can couple them together. See this platform that we have built right now with the help of UNICEF and the crypto fund, along with Ethereum Foundation. So any government can have a deployment of this platform, go to the menu, go to the setup, go to service models, turn on artificial intelligence for monitoring public spaces or making actions faster, detecting a pothole, turn on transparency services, turn on public construction services, turn on the blockchain certificates, and then start tapping into these portable document holders, these Ethereum wallets, where we can deposit blockchain or trustable digital assets. No paper, but more than no paper, it's blockchain behind. This is what we are loving. And as you can see here on the configuration, we just changed the name of the city, changed the colors, changed the different images, turn on the different models, click save, and then we have this world open source as an operating system for the future of governments. This is how we are imagining systems. Think about this. We can detect a public need. Maybe it's an unemployment benefit or another government procedure or service, but think about this simple public need, a broken streetlight. We can detect that from artificial intelligence with an image, and we have the list of issued certificates of providers of the government that can repair that broken streetlight. So we can match that, and this is where we are stepping right now beyond identity, and do smart contracting with that provider to repair that lamp. And once that happens, we can ask the citizens for a decentralized auditing, where the citizen said, yes, the lamp is working right now. And with a certain amount of citizens confirming that the service has been delivered, we can make the payment. How can you lose $5 trillion with this? Christina just showed us how the pilot of Juniper and crypto fund at unicef.io can track the money that UNICEF is investing in startups like us. Imagine doing that with government. Will you trust a government like this? What we're trying to replicate, it's the App Store or the Play Store, but for governments, is the Gov Store. These pieces of software, these Lego pieces within an open source ecosystem and an open source community to build Lego masterpieces, to create this future of government, to reimagine systems with this opportunity that blockchain is bringing back. Blockchain gives trust, government lacks trust. It's easy, we can do that. And this is what Fayaz King says is a potential game changer from OECD. And we have been able to build that because of the help of UNICEF and the Ethereum Foundation. And where we are aiming is to leverage this concept of the Ethereum ecosystem as the infinite machine, where we are actually tapping not only into the Ethereum network, but also into the Ethereum developer talent to create different solutions that can fix government. Because fixing government fixes the places where we live, fix our daily lives. And I just want to end this presentation saying that this is the time to think about the possibilities of the infinite machine to transform the public sector, to reimagine the system, but mostly and very, very importantly, to reinvent the public sector. So thank you very much, Ceci, Christina, and the Ethereum Foundation for inviting us to this presentation.
Thanks, Tree. So we still have a couple of minutes left, and I know Christina and I have several questions to you, and we could have some fun with those. So starting with a question. So I think, you know, I very well know your work, and I think it's so interesting, but there's so many like words that could be a little bit tricky to come in to a governmental official and start with a presentation of that sort. So I guess my question to you for, you know, as like, if you had to think about what do you tell someone that is also looking into blockchain in the public sector, what would you tell them are the one or two biggest barriers in terms of starting these conversations, like selling a governmental official that never worked with blockchain and may never have heard about what blockchain is? Where do you start? And like, if there's any challenge that you want to show or explain, how do you tackle that?
Thank you, Ceci. Goodbye, I need to leave, No, I'm just kidding. So it do remind me of this panel when the moderator asks me, so are you selling anti-corruption technology tools to corrupt people? and I was like, well, at least I'm offering an opportunity to upgrade or modernize their processes, even if they are corrupt. So I guess if you need to start explaining blockchain to a public servant, then you already lost the deal. What you need to explain them is that the internet came to do something better, the same way that there is a new technology that is actually made or built to fix their world, the government world as a whole. And as fun as it sounds, most of our current customers, they always wanted to be like the pioneer politician that used blockchain in the region. So once you see that, once you have the first case, because there's one that has heard the power of blockchain on the public sector, and he or she has been the first one on the headlines of the best newspaper, once that happens, those barriers lower a lot because more of them come. And this, for example, I have a very tangible example. This is happening with the lotteries in Argentina. When it happened with the university and with the government of the presidency, then the Lottery of Rio Negro, they came to us and they say, can we do this with the lottery? Can we bring back trust to the lottery? We said, yes, of course. And when we did that, the president of the lottery called to the Lottery of Neuquén and to the Lottery of here and there. And they started sharing. So barriers for us are actually being lowered by word of mouth. Once there is a first case that understood the power of blockchain and understood the mediatic, the communicational benefits that they have because of using this bet towards transparency and decentralization, once that happens, more and more of them start coming. And to explain blockchain for us, it has been as simple as saying, like, hey, you use like electronic signatures, digital signatures. This is just better. It's cooler. It sounds better. It's a QR. And then you start tapping in and you show these 1-minute videos that I shared on the presentation, and they start up like, literally, can I issue that? And that document is tamper-proof? Yes, it's tamper-proof. And is it unique? Yeah, it is unique. And can anyone verify? Yeah, and this starts changing things. And for example, think about restaurants. You are based in New York. How many times have you stepped into a restaurant, not on quarantine before, and you step into a restaurant and they have a lot of papers on permits and hygiene and everything that they need to have to be a regulated restaurant. So now imagine 3 or 4 QRs that you can scan as a citizen or as a city inspector, and you click verify. And that checks in for you as an inspector to confirm to your bosses that you are doing your job, or as a citizen, you can actually audit your city. These simple examples, these very tangible examples, seem so futuristic to them that they want them. And this is where we are trying to tap. And this is where we are trying to get. And perhaps the biggest challenge is still on, hey, we're gonna know where every single cent of your budget is going. Perhaps this is a challenge, but we're still working and walking around that.
Makes a lot of sense. I think the word of mouth is something sometimes we forget about, but I think that's why these platforms that allow this exchange of conversations is so key. Christina, do you want to go next with a question for Joy?
Yeah, I think we probably have time for one more question. So I'm happy that I get to get one in. Chewy, thank you, because I think every time we talk, we get to see new examples of how you're actually using blockchain with real people. And for me, that's always super exciting. I don't know if you know this, but I actually worked in the public sector before joining UNICEF, and then worked with governments helping them. So it's always so excited to see all of the use cases that you've listed. Some would say that the public sector tends to be risk averse, and I think we've alluded to that a little bit today. But I've also seen I tend to use the public sector as a benchmark in terms of adoption. And when we talk about blockchain applications, obviously attestations are super important, not as sexy as like the DeFi stuff going on for comparison, but it's showing that there's more mainstream adoption. So I guess my question to you is, you've talked about attestations and like a whole bunch of use of those, and I think that that's amazing. You hinted at the idea of a digital ID. kind of what's coming next, because I think that that helps me and maybe the general public kind of better understand wider adoption for these types of technology. So kind of what's the 12-month adoption that you're seeing?
Yeah, thank you, Christina. And yes, I remember your dark past. So on the risk averse first, this is something that and perhaps it's most a message for the audience that an answer to you, but this is something that happened to us by working with UNICEF. UNICEF investing in us, not only money but also crypto fund, is not only financial support, it's a trust badge. So if we go to the city of Buenos Aires and try to sell an AI service, they say, a startup, under 20s, under 30s, a Mexican in Argentina. So, but when it is, no, it's UNICEF coming, bringing someone, things change, risk eradicates, vanishes. So this has helped us a lot, and this is a small caps, but also big thank you to UNICEF, because you have helped us to bridge this gap with the risk-averse politicians. That's the first step. And on the roadmap, this is really hard, because particularly selling to governments during a pandemic has been really hard for us. Really hard for us. It's governments not knowing what they are going to do with their budget, improvising everything, knowing more than ever. There is a customer here in Mexico that says, Chuy, how do you feel that we all know more than ever that we need something that OSCD is offering to us, but we have no money to purchase? So it is like, I feel like I'm right, but this sense of I'm wrong in the inside. So what we're looking for in the next 3 months, I cannot think of 12, I'm honest, but for the next 3 months is to see blockchain digital IDs used by Argentinian citizens with real government procedures. And also because we already have, and this is something that we planned strategically, and this is why we have so many flavors, it's like having tens of products, but it's just one product using differently, is to convince or persuade the presidency that we can make the university jump in and the lottery jump in. And so the same citizen with the same ID, they can have a government procedure and the university diploma and everything. And this, in the next 3 months, will give a sense of the real game changer potential that Fayaz was saying with that tweet. Hopefully we can demonstrate before 2020 ends, but at most, my birthday is February 5th, so I'm gonna give that to me.
Awesome. I'll mark my calendar too for your birthday, so I send you a message. I think that's super interesting, especially since obviously so many of the folks from the Ethereum community are also in Argentina. So I think that would also be just really exciting generally to see that move forward. So sending you all of the good vibes for that.
Can I add something on that?
Yeah, sure.
For particularly, and this is about the crypto fund, particularly if you live in Argentina and you're expecting a salary in Argentinian pesos, you love a salary in cryptocurrency, right? And this has helped us a lot, literally a lot, because having money in Argentinian pesos with the economical crisis they are living during this pandemic, and this is me feeling sorry, but at the same time feeling hopeful and seeing Argentina as an opportunity, having the money in crypto is not only transparent and traceable and all the benefits that we have already spoken, but it's about acquisitive power. It is the valuation free. It is the politicized, and this is a huge benefit that I didn't spoke and that you just tapped in because of the Argentinian community and the team that we have there.
Yeah, I think those are all super, super valid points. Okay, with that, I think we have to call it a wrap for this. So thank you to the ETH Global team for having us. Thank you, Chuy. Thank you, Cece. And I'll hand it back over to Kartik.
Thank you so much, Christina, Cecilia, and Chuy. Amazing talk, and really good to get an insight into how you're making a difference in those communities. So I really appreciate you giving us your time, and hope to see you and what UNICEF does more over the next few months. Thanks, everybody. So we are on our last talk for today, and we're going to just take a quick, short 4-minute break before we get there. And after that, we are going to